chaloka vipati sampati karatanjaliyana divaramaya chatta santi sahata haraja prajatika Ese Chidamhaman Anukam Primantam.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So I was asking Brother Moon if this was Gupta period, and he said it was. And our Buddha in our new Dhamma hall is also Gupta. And this is Abhaya Mudra, which is fearlessness, don't be afraid, she'll be right, that kind of thing. Yeah, I love that style. But I'm not familiar with the Pala, so look that up. Yeah, it'll be interesting. So there are many, iconography is very national in Buddhism, which country it developed in, and then also it's which traditions it developed through. So Theravada is very simple in its iconography, but then when you look at, say, Kagyu or Gelugpa or the Tibetan traditions, then they have the ideal of the Bodhisattva, and then you have Manjushri, and so you have a much more expansive and different iconography. And iconography is pointing to something rather than it being an idol. So obviously this is not an idol. This is a symbol. And the symbol of the Buddha image is to be used in a way of awakening. So, say, aesthetically, I find most Westerners like something very simple and maybe old. Old is good. But in some cultures, they would see an old Buddha and say, why don't you fix it? Don't you love the Buddha? Or they might have Christmas lights all around it with strobe. And they would consider that beautiful. And we might consider it kitsch. So whatever way we look at the Buddha image, we then furnish that Buddha image with our aesthetic preferences. Yeah? So we look at something maybe that has Christmas lights and etc., and we look at it and say, God, that's gaudy, isn't it? I wouldn't want that in my bedroom or in my shrine room. But then if we're practicing the awakened mind, we notice that perception and then we wait. And what's this experience when it's unfurnished with that cultural perception? If you wait, you get to the silence. Which doesn't mean that you have to put Christmas lights on your Buddha when you go home. I don't suggest that, because beauty has its place. Beauty has its place. But the conceit of fashion, my Buddha is better than your Buddha. that you don't want to go to that. So maybe I could use these questions. Appreciate questions. So, if I may read this one out. Could you please speak more about purification of the defilements? I'm looking at the interface between the worldly experience and spiritual life and how one could bypass the process of burning and extinguishing worldly dukkha, but feel as if one has released something. My experience has been to sit with the dukkha, put space around it, and see the clinging as the issue and the difficult experience as life, which I may or may not be able to address, change, address and look at if I can. Tension releases with the letting go of the clinging. Does this purify? If not, what is needed? If so, how? That's it. You've done it. So that's perfect. But if we just think about how we become better human beings. So one of the ways is just through character. So I'm a young monk, I'm in Thailand, and I've been traveling for 3 years doing my thing, whatever that was, good, bad, or indifferent. I'm not a bad guy, but I've got a sloppy mind. And I go to Wat Pho Pong, and bang, I'm in a system. And the system is one where I have no real options. And I'm given food and shelter and very basic food. And of course, the basic food is not what I'm used to. So my habitual mind says, where's the yogurt? Or whatever you want. And then my teacher says, no, you're training in contentment with little, into the samvara, santuti, and gratitude. That's your training. And these people are rice farmers. They work very hard. They give their very, very best. And I see that. It's obvious. I say, yeah, that's true. I'll try to work with that. So my character is, I'm not a bad guy, but I'm a sloppy mindsets. So I start to make intentions to be content with little. Food is passed out. I said, give me a break, will you? Is there any buns? And the mind is doing that because that's what it's used to. It's used to a certain diet. And then the sticky rice, I can't digest it, and all kinds of problems. But then teacher says, no, just be content with a little. Okay, I'll try that. And you start to change character. Start to be one who is content with little and gratitude, sincerely, because teacher asks you to do that. It makes a lot of sense. I have to work on it. But the intention is then to change the whole perceptual structure of my character, to be a better person. So there's that kind of development of the abandonment of defilements, that kind of thing. But then there's other things in life like burnout. If you've ever had burnout, it's a bummer. Your mind just goes out of whack, and you're exhausted, and you're crying, and you're angry, and your mind doesn't work logically, and you hate yourself, and you hate everything. It's a mess. Burnout is a mess. So what do? You get out of there for 10 years, or whatever it is, and then when you get out of the situation, you're dealing with the memory, the resentment, the feeling of self-disparagement. So that's different than character. That's been created through too much stress. And character bought into it in some sense, or maybe necessity bought into it, but that's a different kind of work. So you go away and the mind wants to run with, like maybe I'm a failure. Well then, okay, now that's a strong sense of self. That's much, much more difficult to deal with, but deal with it the same way. Being a failure feels like this. And that's hard to do because the mind is really creating language, and you have failed. And you take it personally. You create a person around that, and it just, churns in your mind, and you keep looking at it, and you're looking at it. So there's a very little space in the beginning. You're just congealed around these things, and so slowly, because maybe you're not so impacted by it, you relax more. The resentments go, forgiveness comes, and maybe you get through that. So that's another way, different kind of situation. But then there's really, really extreme things like war trauma. And how do you deal with that? And we all are more aware of those things, or child abuse and things like that. So those are super extreme. And then there's this kind of currents of being a certain kind of a person. So like a lot of us have the current of being inadequate. So the whole language of self-disparagement and self-criticism becomes a whole construct of who I am. And those, for whatever reason, get inculcated into our minds through culture, family, brother and sister, whatever. And they can be very deep-rooted, obviously. Yeah? And then working through those is another sort of chore work where the self, ahankara mimamkara, the I-making, my-making thinking, one has to just not believe that. So that if it's like self-disparagement, you did it wrong again, good, that is a very believable thought, but you can't believe it. And how do you not believe it? You keep coming back to, well, many ways to do it. You might use a mantra like, I love you, I've always loved you, I will always love you. You counter that with a whole different perception. Oh, shut up. No, but I love you. I've always loved you. I will always, be quiet, you smarmy. I love you. So that's one way. Or you might use the who am I. That's the classic Advaita. So who feels pathetic? Well, I feel pathetic. And who said that? Oh, I said it. Yeah, and who? And you keep using the who to break down the sense of I. And there's a rigor in that. Or you cultivate more samadhi. You try to use anapanasati, calm the mind, still the mind, so that creates a platform of stillness from which, when self-disparaging comes up, it's much more obvious this is just a sankhara. This is not reality, and that's the idea of samadhi. Using the breath, using metta bhavana, something to collect the mind, make it calm, make it pliable, and then when self-disparagement gets triggered, there it is. So, and then you use the language, not me, not mine, not who I am. You use the language of anatta, and that's the Theravada way. So Theravada way is to sort of find balance, find some sense of balance, so that when imbalance comes, you see it, and that imbalance, you have enough wisdom to say, not me, not mine, not who I am. And you use anatta to do that. So the example I gave of Niagara Falls was, I don't know, it made sense in the way my mind is conditioned, but its amplitude was surprising. And how that works, I don't know, but it was certainly, the result was great. And the result was great because I could witness it as an object, even though it seemed so very, very real. And in the witnessing, that self-tendency really, really got like flushed out, I suppose. And what was strengthened was confidence in trust, in awareness. So there are those two. But you can't really say how it's going to work. So I think, what you wrote in the thing, it works, right? You have confidence. But if you look back to 20 years' time, when you're working on other things, it's like not so easy. Things did overwhelm. So when you have a doubt like that, when doubt comes up, am I bypassing? Just know, doubt feels this way. and then you don't get fooled by the thinking mind. So I think that's that one. If possible, can you please review the relationship between stream of consciousness and meditation? So what I mean by stream of consciousness is just life's experience. But life's experience seen objectively. So let's say you go shopping to Costco, and someone in Costco management is rude to you, and you're not expecting, you're very open, you've just done a retreat. And this person is somehow in your face. Whoa, and you really get affected by that. So you go back home, you talk with your partner, I'm never going to go to Costco again. People, I'm going to write to the management. That's not mindfulness of stream of consciousness. That's being reborn into stream of consciousness. Right? Mindfulness of stream of consciousness would be, insult feels this way, and the desire to revenge feels this way. You go home and you feel what the stream of consciousness feels like as an objective experience rather than as a subjective person being injured by this. So that's called sanity. The other is insanity. And people who don't have a reflective mind, they are just leaf in the wind, any old thing. And it's kind of scary. So we as human beings have this kind of interesting thing where we seem to be the protagonists in a play, right? But then somehow the play goes wonky, goes over there, and I thought I had it under control, that was going this way. And so am I the director or not? But then also we're the audience. We're kind of sitting there thinking, well, I really blew that, didn't I? So it's a kind of strange thing being human. I don't know if squirrels do this. Does the brown squirrel come back to its burrow and say, the black squirrels are at it again? I don't know, but I don't want to be a squirrel, that's for sure. So there's this, it's strange, isn't it? You can be the... So the witnessing is more like being in the audience. And you're witnessing how things work. So when we talk about stream of consciousness, we're trying to develop a language which makes it more objective. So we talk about the khandhas, the rupa khandha, vedana khandha, that the body, feelings, perceptions, conceptions, and the different kinds of consciousness. So we kind of break down this stream of experience into kind of categories. Categories don't really matter that much. It's just that you become a bit more objective. So you do a body meditation, and body is an object in awareness. You say, that's true. And if you do that well, then the tendency to attach to the body as me and mine, it's still individual. You're still going to feel your pain, and I will feel my pain, But the capacity to give it space and know it as an object frees you a lot from the attachment to body. So then the language of that is the body is natural. Pain is natural. Pleasure is natural. It's a nature body. I don't own it. It's not me, not mine. And then that language gives you at least some distance. Still have to deal with pain and all the rest of it if it comes. So stream of consciousness also contains my perceptions. So I perceive the image and the lighting around the Buddha image as gaudy. That seems like ultimate truth, because my taste is just, I've got good taste. And everyone agrees. All my friends agree. And yet, so like Ajahn Chah would use a lot, for anicca, he would say, uncertain, rather than use it's changing, we would say it's uncertain. So if you if you told him a perception about something, he'd say it's uncertain. He'd say, oh, come on, please agree with me. Or disagree, but it's uncertain. But it's true, it's uncertain. So it's culturally conditioned, it's the mood of the mind in the moment, whatever. So the whole way of anicca dukkha anatta is to see this stream of conscious events which we are experiencing arise dependent on causes and conditions. They endure for a while and then they cease. They arise and they cease. They arise and they cease. They arise and they cease. And if we buy into them as personal property or whatever, and identify with them, then their changing really messes us up. And yet we do have responsibility. We still have responsibility for what we say and do because there are consequences. So you're trying to get to that sense of spacious knowing. And that's what hopefully the meditation is doing. The meditation is hopefully making that sense of conscious knowing, of change, something that plays out in ordinary life. Otherwise, what's the point of it? You know, if the point of a meditation is some delicate, exquisite states of mind, which then fall apart when you go to Costco, you might as well take acid. Probably not such a good idea. That's old Sanya. But it's not just about, like, I don't know about you, but I think the first retreats we used to do, so, you know, meditation was really delicate. Shh, he's meditating. You know, it's like he's got a migraine. And everything was so what? What's the word? Precious, that's the word I want. Precious. Shh. He's practicing metta. Shut up, I'm practicing metta. I mean, I exaggerate, but that was the sort of mindset, is that you kind of just build up these really cool states of mind. Someone slams the door, oh. But awareness isn't that, is it? Awareness is open. It receives all things, rejects none. And hopefully that's what this kind of a retreat can do. Encourage that sense of open witnessing where all things are allowed and let go of. Which is freedom. To me, it's freedom. So, like, I know for myself, I did a couple of, I think you know the story that when we came to London, we didn't know what retreats were because we just meditated all the time. So, like, what's a retreat? And we wanted to teach lay people, so we did Mr. Coleman invited us to do a couple of Goenka retreats. So I did 2 back-to-back 10-day retreats. Then I got blissed out. Okay. But then it changed. And I was back in London, and so I thought, well, that's not it. Can't be it, because it changed. I liked it, but if it, my basic premise was, if it changes, that's not the unconditioned. I went back to London and tried to develop awareness of aversion to the London Vihara, or whatever it was. So that building up of beautiful states of mind is very, very helpful if it creates a contrast to your life where your buttons get pressed. And then it's very important. So become away. One of the good parts of retreat is probably when you go back home. Because now you've got some clarity, and then kabang, life happens. Whoa, look at my reaction to that. And you think, I've lost everything in the retreat. Oh no. But the contrast is important. Because the contrast shows you, there's a lot of vulnerability here, or this life is too stressful for me, whatever you want, right? But if one just thinks that life is about getting these delicate and precious states of mind, you become very selfish. Leave me alone, I'm meditating. But to not meditate, not create calmness and good tools would also not be correct. So my hope is that we develop the skills and tools to go to Costco or wherever, to go to the marketplace and say, but anyway, thank you. Or I hope you have a better day tomorrow, or something like that, whatever it might be. And so that the marketplace is that, push and pull of life, and we get our buttons pressed and say, wow, I was surprised by that one. But we constantly come back to the witnessing, the kind of space of awareness. So I hope that. So I just used that language, the stream of consciousness. You could use life's experience, the drama. Is that one? How much do I have to do to get my lunch tomorrow? Sorry. I know, you'll feed me no matter what. In our chanting on loving kindness, the verse on the chant is not born again into this world. If my project is for the above, is that still tanha or desire? So that's quite a huge question, which is great because I need to fill in some time. So just settle down, and I do enjoy myself actually. So one of the nice things of my life is I used to be so afraid to do this. Now I seem to have a good time. So the line before that is by not holding to fixed views, which is ditupadana. By not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one is not born again into this world. So that's an interesting one. So first of all, what is this world? Well, in the Pali sense, if you're looking at stream of consciousness rather than as me who was born in 1947 and will die whenever, not looking at the world in that time-bound sense, but as a media thing, the world then is the arising and ceasing of the perceptions and conceptions which create the world for me. Right? And that's valid. It's not saying that the world out there doesn't exist. It's not like a statement that way, although people will argue that. But in this case, so born again into the world, in this sense, what is that? Looking at it differently. Well, what would be born again into the world? Well, wouldn't it be the sense of personhood? So I'm at the vihara that has the gaudy Buddha Rupa and background. Now I've already created a world. My perceptions and conceptions is that, and that's true. That's a true world. It's gaudy. And then I say to the person in a very cruel way, God, you got bad taste. God, you come and see my monastery. And that conceit, I'm born into the world. I hold to the opinion. I'm utterly insensitive to the generosity of the person that's allowing me to use that room. And actually a trip on him. Okay, you're hopeless. Ditupadana, I become this person. And then I do that again and again and again. So attachment to views is, and now we see it with all the kind of conspiracy theories and fake news and all that goes on. A lot of destruction from ditupadana. And ditupadana, or attachment to views, it doesn't mean you don't have views. I have an aesthetic preference, and I talk it over with the monks in the community, and we try to agree on our aesthetic preference, which is fine. But the conceit of views is being reborn as a conceited person. Humility is when I see that my view is just my view, right? And if someone has a different view, I say, yeah, why not? if someone tells me that they have a view that killing others is a great idea, then I say, I'm sorry, I disagree with you. I think karmically you're going to hell. I'm sorry, I just can't get along with that. So I would hold to that view, but it wouldn't come from hatred. It would come, no, there are consequences to that, so I disagree with you. I might disagree vehemently or whatever. So being born into the world, one of the ways we look into that is how does a sense of personhood manifest? Does it not manifest through thought? So go back to the character who is self-disparaging. They do something which is marginally inappropriate, and they think they've committed homicide. Terrible, terrible person. And what is that? That's thought, driven by a certain emotional bias and pattern and a viewpoint that I am a bad person. So that runs. The deeper question is really about your identity. And so, are you a body? Is that who you really are? So are you am I a 78-year-old man with a Canadian passport who had Latvian parents? Yes and no. Yes and no. There is that identity, and I just got a Chinese visa to prove it. I got a 7-year Chinese visa. Thank you very much. Hard to get, Tarek, is that true? I'm very proud of that. So am I a... Yes, but really? And when I look at, okay, who am I can't find a fixed thing. I can see change, I can see emotions, using opinions, preferences, and they're coming and going. I go to the airport, feel a bit anxious that they're going to make, there's a traffic jam in Bangkok, and I get to the airport, because I'm a monk, they speed me through, I feel, wow, I'm cool. And then I get to Ottawa Airport, 3 officers come at me. It's a true story. 3 immigration, I'm like, boom. Where you been? Thailand? What were you doing there? Teaching? And I'm the big guys. And one guy's really like, he's after me. What is this? Who are you teaching? Buddhists? And he asked me a strange question. How old were they? I'm 50. I'm sweating. So, what? And he says, okay, but you got to get, when you get your bags checked and go over to that officer. Yes, sir. And I go over. I'm like, what is this about? And he doesn't go through my bags. He looks at my iPad and he looks at all the pictures. So they were looking for child pornography. I think. Right? And I think I'd heard of a priest or something coming through Toronto and having had on his laptop that. So the guy looks through all the pictures. I didn't have the note to say, what was that about? And then latterly I thought, well, that's the only thing he did. Maybe that. But anyway, it was a different experience than Thailand. And that's stream of consciousness. So I kind of walk away from that and then feeling a bit battered, but feeling battered is like this, right? And don't hold on to it. That's doing his job. Fair enough. And so on. So that kind of idea of stream of consciousness is it's getting that getting that distance, and then the definition of who I am. Am I this person? You start to challenge that, and that's what the Anatta Lakkhana Sutta is about. This body is not me, not mine, not who I am. These feelings, not me, not mine, not who I am. These perceptions, not the sense of history. So the body is certainly 78 years old. And then you come to that interesting question, how old is awareness? Well, does awareness feel rusty? No. Does awareness need a new knee? Not really. How about shaving awareness's head? No. It's silly. I know it's silly, but you start to see, well, maybe if I'm going to identify with anything, maybe identify more with awareness. But then to say, I am awareness sounds weird. So you just come to that conclusion, there is awareness. There is awareness. And start to take refuge in that, rather than in self-identities. The self-identities are necessary for getting a visa to China, and necessary for having a GP in Ontario, which is becoming more and more difficult. And yeah, those are the identities. But then spiritually, how could the body be your identity? It's nature's body. So then you start to get an idea of Dhamma. Dharma is the natural way of things changing. And as you take that more and more, it's not a really philosophical position. It's a kind of, yeah, that makes sense. You kind of agree, and then you feel that. You feel that. You can see the sense of self arising and ceasing as thought. And you just don't invest in it. And when the thoughts are really furious, well, there's a button been pressed here. When there's been some injury or some you've been blindsided by some sickness or some information, then the sense of self really revs up. It's not fair, what's going to happen, I'll never forgive them. That's the time to really practice. And the practice is, I don't believe you, I trust in awareness. Yeah, but you need revenge, you have to do something. I won't forgive them. Awareness feels like this. Trust in awareness. And then, it's like karma's trying to hook you in to really strong self-identity, and you're saying, no, I trust in awareness, and it keeps trying to hook you in. And you breathe, and you do everything you have to do, and you survive it. But because you're aware, that's where I think when I talked about the kind of purification that is not like commonplace, but sometimes happens. You've done difficult work. You've done difficult work, and the result is very obvious. Confident, clear, calm. And it's not something that's constructed. It's not like you built up some kind of lovely samadhi, crystal palace. It's more like the asavas have ceased. The outpourings of delusion have ceased to some extent. The tendencies, what we call anusaya, latent tendencies to greed, hate, and delusion, they've ceased. So the mind has its natural clarity, has its natural purity, and what it has is love, because the cessation of these ego-conscious kind of things, greed, hatred, delusion, as we say, means that what is left is connection, because the sense of self is alienation. That Buddha Rupa, that's really gaudy. That's really alienating. My opinion is right, you're wrong. What you think about this and that is wrong, and I'm right. My religion is better than your religion. Very alienating. But when that Ditthaupadana is let go of, and all the conceits that we have, even about ourselves, and that's let go of, then there's connection, and that's what the Brahma Viharas are about. Metta, karuna, mudita, upekkha, that kind of loving kindness and joy, and that, and so the heart. That's what's interesting for me is the natural abiding of a mind which is not driven by ego delusions is love. I don't know why it is that way, but I think it's cool. And there's no reason it should be that way, but it is. And that love is not the love of particulars. It's again, it's that which includes. So again, just to remember Sri Nisargadatta's lovely phrase, wisdom tells me I'm nothing. That's what Anatta's saying. Love tells me I'm everything. In between the two, my life moves. I've been carrying that one around for 50 years. I read Nisargadatta's I Am That when I was before I met Ajahn Chah, 50 years ago. And I just went through it in like 2 nights, just opened it up. So that was a big influence on me. So wisdom tells me I am nothing, which sounds like there isn't consciousness, but there is. There is consciousness, or there is awareness. But I'm not a thing. I'm not Viradhammo, the thing. I'm not an abbot. I'm not a teacher. These are conventions that we use. I'm not Latvian. I'm definitely not good looking anymore, that's for sure. Or whatever. Sorry. I sometimes see pictures of me meditating. It's depressing. It's so depressing. And so, sorry, that's this phrase. Wisdom tells me I am no thing. Maybe then, brother. But then love tells me I'm everything, and that's including all. It's a kind of nice way to think about it. And my life moves between the two. So I think that's enough for lunch. Okay, let's finish there.
Mayan Dhamma Ketaya Sadhu Karam Dharamase Sadhu 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 Anmodami.
Buddha's words on sharing an aspiration.